What's up everybody, welcome back to the Heads Project. I'm John Ortolaza, and today we're diving deep into spoilers for Marvel's Eternals that dropped just about a week ago. So if you had not seen the film, go check out my non-spoiler review that I posted on the channel last week, and then come back here so we can dive deep and talk all about the nitty-gritty spoilers. There's a lot to this film that I really wish I could have touched upon in my non-spoiler review, but obviously it's non-spoiler, and I'm not the best at articulating my thoughts right out of the gate, right out of the movie theater, especially with a movie this dense and this filled with so much stuff, you know? Like, there's just so much in this film that you gotta talk about, like, full on. You can't really beat around the bush and not say a bunch of words that you don't normally say as a human being. Like gravitas. Like, I don't even know how to properly say that word, but I would never use it. Gravitas. Eternals feels like a film that was meant to bridge the gap between movie nerdy sweaties and the film elites. And I think personally that it does succeed at that. It achieves being a film that can cater to both sides. It has the comic book isms that Marvel just can't really escape at this point. They created a formula, and yeah, it doesn't necessarily like copy and paste what we've seen so far. It has some of the beats, familiar beats, but I personally think it stands out amongst the MCU films as one of the unique ones. There's some things I want to nitpick about with this film, and I'm gonna start off with Icarus. Look, up until his turn, later on, not his turn, but his reveal that he knew all along about Arisham. I'm gonna say his name completely wrong every time. Big C, we're gonna go with that because I'm not gonna remember his name every time I have to say it. So Icarus knew about Big C the whole time. He knew about Ajax and how she knew a little bit more on the inner workings of the Eternals and the Deviants and what their real purpose is. So he took her out because she wasn't gonna fulfill what Big C wanted. So there's the conflict there. And I honestly felt for the Eternals when Icarus finally showed his true colors and told them all, like, yeah, I knew this. I killed Ajax because she wasn't going to fulfill the destiny of Big C, and that's what I'm here to do. So anyone stands in my way, I won't hesitate to kill you. So him and Sprite, who Sprite had this weird love affection for Icarus the whole movie, I guess. You know, they have that one scene together where they're sitting on top of a rock looking at the volcano in which Tiamat is going to emerge from. And he kind of just looks at Sprite. He says, "Thank you for joining me." And that's it. She doesn't get any. I understand that would have been weird because she's a kid. This is a film for families. But I would also argue, don't bring up that Sprite has a thing for Icarus. It just feels tacked on, and it feels like this last minute idea that they threw at a whiteboard where someone of the Eternals would just make fun of Sprite. You're not fooling anyone, Sprite. We know you've had a thing for Icarus for centuries. Shut up! He was sort of like the bad guy foil, and that's what I kind of like. It's different because there isn't a bad guy at the forefront. You get that one deviant that shows up here and there, but ultimately he's not a real character at all. He was Thena's little plot device to get her to the end of the film, and that was pretty much it. Like, he doesn't really serve a point. I don't even know the deviant's name. That's how unimportant he really is to this plot. He kind of shows up when he has to. Other deviants will suck the blood or the life essence out of some Eternals in the film at certain points, and they become more advanced. They start to change and become kind of like they look like the creature from The Shape of Water. That's what they look like to me. I've never seen the film, I've just seen the trailers and the poster, and that's what they look like. So like I said, up until that point where he becomes a really interesting character, that first half of the movie, I just feel like a lot of these Eternals are kind of just wandering about. We're not really getting any time to invest in them as people because they're not technically people, they're immortals. And they kind of have to illustrate, you know, they've been around for years, for thousands of years. And they paint that picture very well with the flashbacks and whatnot, but never once do I really get emotionally connected to an Eternal until like halfway through the film. That second half of the film does a pretty good job, I'm not gonna lie, but it took a while to get there, that's all I'm gonna say. At least during the runtime of your film, you got me to care about the bulk of your characters. Not all of them, though. I will say there are a handful of characters that I just thought were very inconsequential to the overall plot and were a bit of an annoyance. Sprite, a little bit of Droog, just a tiny bit. Like, he's cool and all. Like, he had some shining moments and he has a really good presence. I like that actor. He's pretty good, but his character just doesn't feel very significant to me in this film. And Sprite is the annoyance that I was talking about. She just comes across as very annoying. I get it 100%. It's awesome that this actress, who's very young and is acting back and forth in multiple scenes in this film with veteran actors, doing a really good job. Don't get me wrong, like, some people might be intimidated by that. If I was, hell, me as a 21-year-old going up in a scene with Angelina Jolie, I wouldn't be able to get a single line out because I'm stuttering, and she's just a goddess. So nothing against the actress. I think she's good. She's probably amongst one of the best child actors working today. That's just me being honest, but just the character just doesn't resonate with me. I don't want to talk about every single Eternal, but I do want to bring back up Brian Tyree Henry and Kumail, who played the comic reliefs in the film, and I think they do that job really well. Brian Tyree Henry does have a little bit of a different comedic style than Kumail. He's more like forward about it and like he'll make the joke, whereas Brian Tyree Henry is more kind of a reactionary comedy. You know, I just really like seeing both of them interact and play off of the other Eternals that were more stoic, like Icarus and like Thena. It was just made for some really fun scenes, and that's what I liked about the film. That's what it maintained about that standard Marvel formula without falling back into, oh, here's the cookie cutter crap. No, it's still its own thing with that familiar flavor. I think they handled the comedy in the film very well. Not everybody in the film needs to tell jokes. I've seen that issue in a few films before, a few Marvel ones, but in here, everyone who tells jokes is really just between Brian Tyree Henry and Kumail. A lot of people in the film have funny moments, but only a select few are telling the jokes and being the comic relief. I will say one of the scenes towards the end of the film where Sprite stabs Cersei and she has like this very emotional moment where I thought Cersei was gonna die. And I'm like, oh wow, this annoying character just killed like one of my favorite characters in the film. And then boom, Drew comes out of nowhere, hits her with a rock, and he's like, she's got a mouth on her, or something like that. The music stops, Cersei heals herself, and then the whole moment's gone. It was the one attempt for the film to turn me around on Sprite, which I don't think it was gonna work in this scene, but I was giving it a try. I was all there, willing to see what happens next. And then what happened next was Drew knocked her in the head, and Cersei got up, acted like nothing just happened, further cementing Sprite as a useless, nonsensical character in my head. The film did have this about 5-minute long exposition scene where the Big C is telling Cersei all about the history of the Eternals and why they've come into an existence and why the Deviants come into an existence. It's because the Deviants were first created to, I guess, reforge the planets so that they could build new Celestials and whatnot, because I'm not going to get into the whole thing. It's a lot to process, but long story short, the Deviants were created first. They became unstable. They became self-aware, so they started going against Big C's laws and how he wanted things to be done. They would attack other life forms that he didn't want them to attack. So Big C creates the Eternals to take out the Deviants and fulfill the destiny that the Celestials wanted to begin with the Deviants. Deviants still exist, so that's why you have the conflict between Eternals and Deviants. Other than a couple of references during dialogue and maybe like a few scenes, a handful of scenes, you don't really get that sense that the Eternals film is connected to the MCU. You get stuff here and there. They bring up Thanos, they bring up the Snap, they bring up the Avengers and Captain Rogers. Other than that, it's not really like in your face connected, and I think that's a good thing. I know there's a bunch of people who really do like that connective tissue to be just in the forefront, just all in your face. Sometimes that can be a little too much, you know, that can just take away from the film itself. Going back to it, the main plot is, like I said, there's no villain, but there is that whole plot that Big C wanted. He wanted to plant a seed into the earth so that they could birth a new Celestial. That was the whole plan. That's what Celestials have been doing since their creation. That's what they do. They send Eternals down to Earth and, you know, to regulate the humanity, life, and whatnot. And they can't interfere, though. That's the big thing. That's the one thing that we get in this film. We cannot interfere as Eternals with human conflict. We have to have them grow and develop the way they're supposed to. I think the studio knew this was going to be very weird if you had a Celestial be the villain of the film. Like if Tiamat was proper villain, like full on, he becomes this big sentient thing that they have to fight. It would have been really hard to pull off because they're small Eternals. They're Eternals, immortal, powerful Immortals, no doubt, but they're tiny. I really did like Athena's little subplot in the film, how after every convergence or emergence, I don't know, it's a gents, that's what I know. After every event that would occur after centuries and centuries, all the Eternals would get their minds wiped, but they would still know at the core who they are and who each other are. They would just forget all of the experiences that they had during that time between both gentses. But there was this illness, I guess, called, what was it called? Mind weary? Where you would become aware of your past memories and it would all just start coming back to you at once. And you would get all like, you know, vicious. And there was a point where, there was like 2 points of the film where Athena almost killed all the Eternals. It took all of them to take her down. And that was pretty cool. I kind of like that. At least what she had in the film was really cool. I just wish we got more of her. You know, I wish she was pushed a little bit at the forefront. I was kind of worried that Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek were going to be pushed to the moon, pushed right in our faces, but surprisingly not. No, they had less screen time than Gemma Chan. Gemma Chan is the lead of this film, like hands down, and I think she kills it, dude. I really did enjoy her in Crazy Rich Asians, and she's really good in here. She's really good at taking the audience through her eyes and showing us the world of Celestials and Eternals and Deviants. I liked it, and I think she plays the character of Cersei very well. She's certainly not the coolest Eternal. I gotta give that to Icarus, my man Richard Madden, Robb Stark himself. Come on. Come on. This dude's Superman. Like, it's like Kevin Feige, he wants to make a Superman movie. He really does. He wants DC to be bought by Disney or Marvel in his dreams, and he wants to create a Superman movie. Or he'll just have dreams where he'll go over to DC and fix them up a little bit. They could use a Kevin Feige, honestly. But it is clear as day, all of the Superman references in this movie, dude. Like, Icarus is the Marvel Superman at the moment. He's got the laser vision, he's got the flight, he's got the power, he's got that heroic feel to him up until the point where, you know, he turns, or shows his true colors, I should say, and he becomes kind of like the foil to the rest of the Eternals. They all have to fight to take him down because he's standing in their way, or they're standing in his way. You can look at it any way you want, but at the end of the day, Eternals form the Unimind. They take down the Celestial Tiamat that's trying to form or be born, whatever. The Earth is giving birth to Tiamat, and he's trying to emerge. And so they form the Unimind to marbleize him, to crystallize him in place. So now the Earth has half a Celestial's head and a hand sticking out of the ocean. I think I understand the ending for Icarus in this film. I understand he feels that he was doing the wrong thing. Or at least he thought he was doing the right thing up until the point where all of the Eternals showed him that they needed to do this. They needed to stop Tiamat. They need to show the Celestials. They need to show Big C that they're not messing around, that they're not going to go through with this planet anymore. We're not just going to take planet after planet anymore. We love this planet, and we're going to keep this planet. And Icarus, I guess, saw the error in his ways, but then he flies into the sun. Like, why? Why? Is because it's in, what, Greek mythology that Icarus flies into the sun or flew too close to the sun? Now this goes straight into the star. Like, why? Whether he knew he was gonna kill himself or he thinks it's gonna make him strong, none of that was illustrated in that scene. I get that his emotions were running high and he knew he messed up. He knew he let down the ones that he loved, especially Cersei, the love of his life, I guess, because, you know, he's been trying to get back with her the whole time in the movie because they had their first Marvel sex scene earlier in the film, it was just out of placement. You know, we just got introduced to them and they just started doing it on the rock outside. It was just weird to me. But I did appreciate the inclusion of the romance. I think it does work. It just, one scene just felt a little weird to me. On the rock, outside, there's doors and buildings, and she's outside. And I just don't think Icarus's end, so to speak, I don't know, he might come back. I don't think the end of him in this film is super justified. It just doesn't make sense to me. It came across as very out of left field. It was kind of random to me. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Chloe Zhao, comment down below. Let me know what that last scene was about with Icarus. I don't know. At the end of the film, Cersei is back with Dane Whitman, her new love interest, and he's about to tell her who his family lineage is and whatnot, and like, you know, something that he just found out, and it sounded like it was a big deal that she might care about, but then the big C comes through the clouds. He's like, you guys will be held for judgment or something, and he just flies away with them. He just abducted 3 of the Eternals, and then the movie ends. It was kind of an abrupt ending, I will say that. I just wasn't on board with it. But overall, the film did win me over. It does stand out as a very unique project from Marvel Studios, who collaborated with Chloe Zhao. Like, it was a really cool experience, and I would like to see more films like this with Marvel characters. I really would like to see more of it. Maybe polish up the endings and certain character motivations a little bit more. Don't include annoying characters like Sprite, and don't have your really cool Eternal fly into the sun for no reason. There's 2 post-credit scenes in this film. One of them, the first one, takes place in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where they are. They're in deep space in the Eternal ship. Thena, I believe Mercari is there, and somebody else. I can't remember who the other Eternal was, but they hear some commotion at the entrance of the ship, and you see these like star flares, like these lens flares. They look like rainbow flares coming towards you, and then this guy appears. I'm sitting back trying to figure out who this is. Like, oh, is that Rocket? Oh no, it's the dwarf from Infinity War. No, it's some new guy named Pip the Troll, and he looks like a PS2 character. Honestly, that CGI looked like trash, dude. This character, this is how you introduce him, with this poor CGI. Oh my god. And I believe he was voiced by Patton Oswalt, who, hey, I like Patton Oswalt. He's funny, really funny actor, really funny voice actor, don't get me wrong. But, dude, the second introduction that we get in this same post-credit scene, another set of flares go off, and then boom, you see a guy walking in the dark, just a shadow, a silhouette, I should say. And out comes Eros, known as Star Fox. Pip the Troll introduces him as Thanos' brother. And it's Harry Styles? Like, that's weird. Kind of weird. But he looks kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, he looks kind of cool. I'll give it a shot. Like, I like getting introduced to new characters, don't get me wrong. Except Pip the Troll, no. That was weird as f***. Second post-credit scene, we get Dane Whitman inside his office, and there's this big case. Looks like it's housing a sword. He opens it up. It's a sword. It's the ebony blade, I believe. It's all wrapped up, but it has like this weird like etching on it, and the second he moves his hand closer to it, the etching moves in the, you know, direction of where his finger is. And I'm like, that's pretty wicked. But before he touches it, he hears a voice right at the doorway, and it says, like, are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman? Obviously not like that. No, he didn't sound like that, but I guess Chloe Zhao has confirmed that that voice was Mahershala Ali as Blade. And of course, we're going to get a Blade film with Mahershala Ali, I believe, like a year or 2 from now. I don't think it's coming out in 2022. That'd be kind of early, but pretty cool. I'd be down for that. I'm not a huge Blade fan. I did give that first film a try. Just wasn't for me. But I might revisit those Wesley Snipes films in the lead up to Mahershala Ali's Blade movie. So guys, that is my spoiler talk. I know I went all over the place. I apologize for that. But let me know down below, what did you think of Eternals? Have you gotten a chance to check it out yet? It's been out in theaters for about a week now, and it's a pretty lengthy one, so be patient, guys. Take your pee breaks beforehand and just sit and relax and enjoy, because it's a very unique experience, I think. It's just as long as another film that came out recently, another Sandy flick. And I think it's better than that one. As always, guys, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and be sure to stick around because I'm currently covering all of the Spider-Man films. I just finished covering the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Next, we're moving on to Mark Webb's Spider-Man duology, I guess is how you would call it. And then, of course, Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home, all in the lead up to Spider-Man No Way Home that's hitting theaters December 17th. So you might want to stick around the channel. There's a lot of Spidey content, a lot of Marvel content, and a lot of content in general coming to the channel, and there's always more to come.